Hospital. You know it, I know it. You probably don't like going there. I don't like coming here. I totally understand. But if you're using your hospital as records or evidence for your disability case, a few things you might want to think about. Come on, let's talk. Emergency room. Let's be real. A lot of people, this is their primary source of treatment. It's not sexy. It's not really where you want to be, but it is where you go to get treatment. Keep in mind, when you're coming for an emergency room visit, usually it's not for something that requires you to stay overnight. It may be something just to get your condition under control. You may be only here for a few hours or so, but the reality is this information is still important. So make sure that if somebody is asking you about going to the hospital, that you can identify the difference between an emergency room visit and an admission. But there's a few other things that you might want to think about that might be helpful to your case as well. I know you probably can't see this, but this is what we call the release of information section. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's the medical records section. Once you are discharged from the hospital, try to go by and get a copy of your records before you leave. This way you're not requesting those records after the fact and having to be paid or have to pay a certain dollar amount. Every state is different, so don't think automatically just because you ask for them in your state, they're going to give them to you right out the bat. But when you go, ask for, if you can't get all of your records, ask for them to provide you an abstract and copies of all of your objective testing, whether it be x-rays, labs, MRIs, things of that nature. So remember, if you can't get all your records, at least try to get your hands on the x-rays and an abstract, which is a shortened version of all the records that you have. So I would take you down to the offices, but patient area, so I don't want to get anybody in any trouble or anything. But one little secret weapon that you may want to think about if you're admitted to the hospital are social workers. These people are spectacular. When you're in the hospitals typically won't release your medical records. So unfortunately, you kind of have to wait until after you're out. But here's a few things social workers can do. One, they can get your Social Security case started for you if you don't have a representative. Two, they can actually get their hands on, or at least most places that I've experienced can get their hands on copies of your medical records or portions of it if those records are necessary for your case. Three, they can sometimes reach out to the doctor to actually get a medical, what we call a medical source statement completed on your behalf. Social workers are golden. Try to make sure that when you get admitted to a hospital, find out who they are and see what they can do to help you. Well, I'm pretty sure that was hopefully a little bit more insightful to you, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to kind of give you a few little tips when it comes to dealing with the hospital. So let's do a brief recap. One, if you're going into the emergency room visits, make sure that when somebody's asking you about going to the hospital, that you make a distinction between emergency room and being admitted. Secondly, when you go to the hospital and you find yourself being admitted and you need some help, make sure you find out who the social workers are, and those persons are golden assets to help you. And third, make sure you find out what the hospital's policy is with regards to releasing medical records to you, whether you can get a copy when you leave, or whether or not you can get a copy, or if you have to pay for it. If you have to pay for it, or if you can get a copy, either way, and you can't afford the big copy that they provide, see if they can provide you an abstract and see if they can give you copies of any objective testing that occurred while you were here. I know that's a lot of information, but hope it helps.